Last week I said that it was my most active week on this cut so far, but this week I've been even more active. I'm gonna try to average 15,000 steps per day. So far, my highest in one day has been 31,000. Perhaps a bit excessive, but I'm not really feeling tired. I'm feeling more and more energetic actually the more I do this shit. I haven't really cycled quite as much as last week, but I'm gonna try to match that. So far I've only got 40 kilometers. But I still have 2 more days to go. It's now Saturday morning. Now that I think about it, perhaps it's not energeticism. Maybe it's just pretty weather and habit. Yep, I ended up walking over 15,000 steps per day on average. I absolutely cannot understand how some people have been able to complete 100,000 steps in one day. Only ended up cycling 50 kilometers this week. That's not quite as much as last week, which was 80 kilometers, but since I just about doubled my steps, which is the more important thing, I can forgive myself for that one. My waist measurement went down by 2 centimeters, my fat ass legs went down by 2 centimeters as well, and this was a week where I had a really big weight drop. All the activity I've been doing for the past couple weeks really paid off, it seems. My average calories per day were the highest so far, over 2.7 thousand. But more on that later. There's a quite interesting takeaway from this week. The lighting and the angle that I've been using all this time are both right in front of me. This makes for the most realistic and also the least flattering photos and videos possible. Here's an image I took from an upward angle. The lighting is still pretty bad, but kinda shows the difference of what I'm talking about here. Maybe at some point I will really go wild with the angles and lighting and make a video about realistic versus unrealistic photos. It's certainly an interesting topic with a lot to talk about in the fitness social media scene. My heavy sets this week, the 1 rep sets that I do, which I try to do at around my 3 rep max, were way heavier than I would have liked. The idea of these is to maintain my tolerance to heavy weight, but I think at this point I'm actually building tolerance to heavy weight. Hopefully these will get easier in the following weeks because these really shouldn't feel hard yet. Alright, so I walked around 15,000 steps a day on average this week. For reference, that's around 12 kilometers with my step length. A person of my weight, which is just above 200 pounds, will burn roughly 60 to 80 calories per kilometer walked. Let's be conservative and just say 60 calories. For 12 kilometers, that makes 720 calories. Let's just round it down to 700 for convenience. As a side note, it's much better to measure your walking in distance rather than time. The problem with time is that, let's say you're a 200-pound person and you walked for 2 hours. If you did it at a really fast pace, you might have burned 800 to 1000 calories. But if you did it really slowly, you might have burned only like 400 calories. But if we measure it in distance, 12 kilometers is always 12 kilometers. If you do it at a really fast pace, it might take you an hour and a half. Sure, it's really tough, but it's only an hour and a half of walking, and it might burn you around 700 calories. If you do it really slowly, it might take you 3 hours. Of course, it's easy to walk really slowly, but 3 hours is a long time, and you'll probably end up burning 700 calories in this case as well. So I burn around 700 calories from walking alone every day, on average. Then I do 4 strength workouts every week. They're pretty long, around an hour to an hour and a half, but my rest periods are quite long. So at most, I'm burning about 300 calories per one of these. On top of these strength workouts, I do a 40-minute GPP session. These are pretty tough. My average heart rate is around 140 for one of these sessions. Probably burning around 400 calories in those 40 minutes to be fair. So 4 strength workouts burning 300 calories each, that's 1200 plus the GPP session 400 calories, totals 1600 calories. Divided by 7 because we want to get the daily average that I burn in my workouts. That's about 230. Then there's also cycling, which I did 50 kilometers this week. That's around the average that I do every week. My cycling pace is pretty damn consistent. My average heart rate is at around 130 to 135. 50 kilometers takes me around 2.5 hours to cycle, and I burn 400 calories per every hour. So that's 1000 calories total, divided by 7, around 140. So we get 700 plus 230 plus 140, which is 1070.
I like to be conservative rather than optimistic, so let's round it down to 1,000 calories. So, I burn 1,000 calories per day on average, just from my activity alone. My sedentary total daily energy expenditure is around 2,400 calories, so if I did absolutely nothing, didn't walk, didn't train, nothing. With activity added, my maintenance is around 3,400 calories. This week I was way more active than any of the previous weeks, but I was also eating more. Before this week I was eating around 2,300 to 2,400 calories per day, but my activity was also lower. This really shows that, at least for me, once my activity goes past a certain point, my appetite also goes up. And you can't just willpower through it. This is why there are so many obese people in the world who stay like that, sadly, through their entire lives. People who exercise every day don't do it because of willpower. They do it because they love doing it. These people have trouble taking rest days even when they know it would be good for them. And this is further proof that willpower alone isn't a great long-term solution. If you are a person who has trouble losing weight, who likes to eat quite a lot, and you're eating at a 1,500 calorie deficit, your willpower will eventually break. It doesn't happen in a way that you suddenly go out of control physically and start eating everything in sight. It happens mentally. You start convincing yourself that this is not worth it. You need to eat more to have more energy or to have a better quality of life and so on. This is obviously very understandable, but it's important to know that this is the way it happens. First you lose motivation and then you start telling yourself why you should stop doing it. And then you stop doing it. You shouldn't really aim for a huge deficit for long periods of time. Sure, for individual days or even a couple of weeks here and there, you can do that if you're really motivated to do that. But life shouldn't be a constant battle fighting all of your cravings to the bitter end. It's about balancing everything.
Whole life have a balance. Everything be better.
It is okay to eat when you're hungry. Just don't go out of control. It is also okay to eat a little bit more on a day where you've been really active. But if you aren't hungry or you haven't been active at all and you want to eat an entire pizza, that is the situation where you should fight and use your willpower. Just don't be a stupid asshole. Works in most cases in life. Be active as long as it's fun. But don't try to be an athlete, because you probably aren't one. I know I'm not. And this week was probably the limit or above the limit of what I could realistically sustain every week. But at least I tried it. Was fun. I'll probably tone it down a little bit in the future going forward. Anyway, thank you for watching this week's video. I will see you again next week.